This programme was funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.
So is this your first year running it, or?
No, this is my third year running it.
This is my first one. This is my sixth year now this year, yes.
Fourth, 5.
I probably had attended most of them, all of them nearly, but I ran 19.
This is our kind of first main race of the year that everyone goes out for, so yeah, this is one of the main ones.
This is a huge achievement for the Ballycotton area. To be able to achieve what they're achieving here is remarkable.
Hello, I'm Jordan McCarthy. Welcome along to this special 1-hour documentary entitled The Ballycotton 10, the best road race in the country. This programme will explore and celebrate over 40 years of running in Ballycotton. The 10-mile race was first run in 1978. In 2017, organisers, athletes and locals alike celebrated 40 years of the prestigious road race. From humble beginnings to becoming a mainstay in the athletics calendar, its 40-year history has thrown up many great stories. John Welsh has run in every one of the 40 runnings of the race. The contribution made by John to athletics in East Cork and further afield cannot be underestimated. Without him, the Ballycotton 10 simply would not be what it is today. Going back to the time before the Ballycotton 10 was established, the athletics landscape here in Cork looked somewhat different to what we have become familiar with today, as John explains.
I suppose when I started running myself, road running athletics was a minority sport, maybe still is, but I suppose road running at that time would be a very small aspect of athletics as a sport. And when I started back in the early 1970s. I started off with Middleton Club. And that time you would run cross country in the winter, and in the summer, if you were probably good enough, you ran a few open sports, and that was what was the programme really. Most people concentrate on cross country if you were more inclined towards the longer distances. There was a few road races. Of course, you had the races like you all around the houses at New Year's Eve, and also maybe in the summer months you would have various carnivals. They might have an odd round the houses race. The distance could be anything from 3 miles to 6 miles. There was no such thing as measured courses. There was no such thing as getting times for which didn't matter anyway, as the course wasn't accurate. But you competed mainly you would have novice team prizes and seniors, and you mainly just little plaques and trophies, and there were the few road races that were there.
John started running for Middleton Athletic Club and had developed a huge interest in athletics. He read various magazines such as Athletics Weekly, and as a result he was aware of what was happening in the sport, both nationally and internationally.
At that time, road running was a big part of the scene in England. Now, numbers wouldn't be huge, but there was a sort of road running fraternity there who would run during the summer. There were mainly 10-mile races, and of course you had a few marathons, but it was the 10-mile. It kind of, I suppose, I don't know why, but it attracted my attention, and I said, wouldn't it be great to have a 10-mile race? There was no 10-mile race in Ireland at the time. You had the Cork to Cove 15-mile race. You had maybe you had a national marathon and maybe one marathon in Dublin, and apart from that there was very little in long distance, anything over 6 miles. If you mentioned the 10k or 5k, people would know what you're talking about. The 10k, I suppose, was an American term. At that time you would say maybe a race was 10,000 metres or 5,000 metres, and apart from that, distance on the road were just, there were anything from, as I said, from 3 miles to 6 or 7 miles.
In 1977, John and his fellow athletics enthusiasts held a 5-mile race in Ballycotton. It proved to be extremely significant.
We kind of decided that we'd start off maybe small, and a friend of mine, Dan Donovan, and with the help from a few from the Middleton Club at the time, we decided upon this 5-mile race. And in August 1977 we had the first ever race in Ballycotton. At that time I went around to a few shops and get a bit of sponsorship, and people were wondering, what's the road race? Is it a running race? Is it a cycling race or what? And We had 34th, was won by Ray Tracy, who was heading off to Providence College that same year on a scholarship, and he ran, even the course was a little bit short of 5 miles at the time. We hadn't our measurements so refined as they are nowadays. He ran 23:47, and everyone seemed to be happy with it. We gave times for every finisher, which was kind of unheard of back then, because but there was a man from Leeville Club in Cork, Mick Long, and he just came along and he timed the runners. We wrote them down, and we had the full results of the 34 finishers, and written up that evening. So that was that. I asked a few people then, what would they think of a 10 mile, because there was the March. The Middleton Club had a festival of road races with Father Liam Kelleher for a number of years, but then when he moved on, they sort of fell away, and there was a free date in March, early March, and I thought we'd maybe try for that. And again, I asked the advice of a few runners, and most of them kind of felt, well, you can't go wrong with 5 or 6 miles, that you won't get numbers for 10 miles. So I decided to have a go anyway, and I also, at the time, I joined the Road Runners Club in the UK, and the man there was John Jewell, who was the pioneer of course measurement in the UK, and it was he got this calibrated cycle method, which is the Jones counter now that's used worldwide. So I was right to him, and he gave me some information about how to measure a course and so on, and so we went through the proper procedure. We measured the 10-mile course. We advertised it in that mountain magazine, and to really word them out, because at that time you were just talking about clubs, and you could say you get so many from Leeville, you get St Finbarr, you get Youghal, Middleton. That was about it. And I said 31 turned up, and Richie Crowley won it, and everyone seemed to be happy with it. So we said, look, we'll see what happens. We'll go ahead next year.
History was made. The Ballycotton 10-mile road race was born. Richie Crowley of St Finbarr's was the first runner across the finish line. He became the first ever winner of the race, and it's a title that he holds in high regard.
It was a fine day. It was windy, all right. We had the wind to our face coming out. Yeah, and at 5 miles we were there in 25 minutes, and there were 3 of us up there. Liam O'Brien, the same Liam O'Brien, Dick Hodgins was there as well, and so we came back to 7 miles, and I could see Ballycotton inside, and I said, no, I wasn't feeling bad, so I said, I'm going to have a go here and try and get away, and I did. So I hung on. As you know, the last mile is fairly severe. I would have loved to have got under the 50 minutes. I get a great kick out of it, I'll be honest. I go there every year. I go to the 3-mile mark, which of course is the 7-mile mark as well. And there's usually a fine group there, and there was a bit of crack there. And of course the slagging as they pass is unbelievable.
Initially, there hadn't been a huge demand among women to run the race. There had been a 3,000 metre race for the ladies in 1978, but there wasn't much interest in the 10-miler. However, Mary Sweeney, at the time Mary Dempsey, did have a desire to tackle the longer race. And in 1979, at the second running of the 10-mile race, the all-native got her wish. She crossed the line in a time of just over 68.5 minutes. She became the first winner of the Ballycotton 10 ladies race.
I was delighted. Now, my dad was totally against it, because my dad, being my dad, had coached me to a very good level as a juvenile. I had, I got to senior with him, but he was kind of what he felt was that 10 miles was too long for me, and that he was afraid in case I would burn out, and that was his main concern. But no, being stubborn Mary and loving running, I said, no, I want to do a 10 mile. I want to do this 10 mile race. But he said to me, look, he said, Mary, fine, you haven't covered the 10 miles distance, but little did he know I had. Because when he told me to do 3 or 4 or 5 miles, up to 7 I was doing a sneaky 2 or 3 as well in the quiet. I had the distance covered. When I lined up that day, I ran away and I won it, and it was a win. It was great. It was 10 miles. Obviously, it was like a marathon to me at that time. And I suppose the most memory in my mind was my mum was there, my dad was there, and they were delighted that I got through the 10 miles but it was the price. I got a prize, and the first prize that year was an orange hairdryer. I swear to God, I was one of 5 sisters, so I was cute. When I brought the hairdryer home, I only allowed them use it. If I got 10 pence or 20, whatever I could get off them, I bribed them, or they'd have to do something for me in return to use this hairdryer, because we didn't have a hairdryer at the time. We used to use the end of the Hoover. So that's the one thing I always remember, my prize. I've got many, many prizes since that day, but I really can hardly remember any of them. That one I can. Looking back at it now, it's a brilliant memory now, because I've ran probably every one of them except the 2 when I had my 2 sons. So therefore, the memory of winning the first one will always be with me. It was special, and memories are memories.
The 2016 running was also a special one for Mary Sweeney, as she witnessed her niece and student Aoife Cook from Youghal emulate her by winning the ladies' race.
Yeah, it was great. It meant a lot to me to win the Ballycotton. Like I'd, growing up, obviously Mary Sweeney's my aunt, so I would have heard about the race a lot growing up, and I did a bit of running myself. So it always kind of, had that kind of sense of tradition, and it was always kind of one of those races that, it kind of stands out from the rest of them really. So, to win it meant a lot. It was great. I always saw her running around when I was younger, and then the club, when I was in Ballincollig at the time, the club started and she started coaching there. So I joined it then and kind of went from there. It's not an easy course by any means at all. The start of it is a bit downhill, so people kind of tend to kind of maybe go out a small bit too fast, which I would advise against really, if at all possible. The route around is quite a good course. Few pulls in there make it challenging, but I suppose the most challenging part, and I suppose the most infamous part of the Ballycotton 10 is the last kind of mile and a half. It's an awful drag up to the end, so it's kind of recommended to kind of keep something in the tank for that. For the Ballycotton 10, I'd obviously been training for other things before that, but specifically for the Ballycotton 10, I suppose I started training in the January of that year. So about 10 weeks beforehand, I suppose I gave myself for this specific 10-mile training. I was running, I suppose, maybe around 60 miles a week at the time, and I would have been running 6 days a week. It was a great day. I was very, I was surprised to win it, and it was it's such a great feeling. The atmosphere down there is, second to none. You can always count on the locals to come out and support for it. So it was amazing, and it felt like a celebrity coming up to the end, and I think they kind of make everybody feel like that in the race. So, it was fantastic. I'll definitely make my way down there again at some point. Hopefully challenge whoever's there again.
Mary also ran that day, running a faster time than she did when she won the race back in '79.
It's great to see my niece coming up and doing, be on the podium with the same result. Every year I ran it, I probably ran a bit faster, which was or equalled it. But I suppose I'm hoping that I'll be around, please God, next year again to do it. And I keep saying then maybe it's time then to say, okay, Mary, enough is enough. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But as you know, the East Cork crowd are they're home to me as well. And Johnny Walsh does such a fantastic job, and all his committee. You have to give. I always say, look, we're the runners. It's the organisers of all these races, and especially these ones that we call, the special races that they come out year after year. They just don't happen. That takes commitment, work, loyal people, everything. Down to getting the weather right nearly even. And nobody has to say that, only God. But for some reason, it seems to happen.
I suppose when the running boom then started, and you had a lot of people who weren't members of clubs, and they realised that they too could run distances, and we were kind of geared in a way then, and as the numbers increased, we were able to cope with them, and we were able to, I suppose, improve our our timing and our finishing techniques and so on. And where other races, maybe they just started off and they got a big number the first year and they weren't able to manage them, but at least we had a bit of experience with. We had 31 the first year, and then we moved on the second year, and we had. We went up to 82 finishers, and by 1980, as I say, 6 months before Dublin, we had 151 finishers in Ballycotton. And then they continued to rise. They went up to 230 and then went up to over 400, and it kind of took off after that then.
Martin Drake is the chairman of the East Cork Athletics Board. He helps with the stewarding of the race nowadays, but as an athlete he ran some great times in Ballycotton. Although he competed in a lot of big races nationally and internationally, this race gave him a great thrill down through the years. And he believes it stands out for one reason in particular.
The excitement, and everyone loves it. It's the main race of the year. It's a race that you'd pick out maybe 5 months before and you train very hard. And I was lucky to be with great club like East Cork AC, and they're still going strong. And to be with them, Jordan, you were doing very well, My best overall in the Ballycotton 10 was 12th, and my time was 51 minutes and 32 seconds. But I scored on the winning team, I should say, a few times. So that was the good thing. I've won the team prizes a few times with East Cork AC. So it took a good club and a good team to win in Ballycotton 10. We were only talking about it, myself and Richie Crowley there. And Richie was one of the best runners came out of Ireland with Liam O'Brien. And they're talking about times now. Times have changed maybe, and the runners, the quality mightn't be there. That's not knocking no one or downing anyone. It's just that the strength 20 years ago was terrible strong. You 20 runners inside 52 minutes. That'll tell you the quality at that time.
Do you feel it influenced the running boom here?
Big time. I think it's after being very positive. Like, you go there, Jordan, there lately, you were out there. The thousands, they just keep coming. They come from all over the world. And to make what Ballycotton has done, it takes a great committee and a great back team. And the likes of Johnny Welch and the team he has out there. It's just, you could talk about it all day, but it's one of the best races in Ireland. The boom is there, but Ballycotton, everyone wants to go to Ballycotton. You can see the way it's organised, and the music, the excitement, and they come, Jordan, from all over the world. And when they travel like that, you have something very special. When we trained, we were training 100 miles a week at that time, 100 miles a week with Liam O'Brien, and you just got on with it. But you had a target, Ballycotton 10, and the excitement that day, and the day you come home and you get up on a Monday morning, you'll go out and you run another 10 miles with the buzz, knowing that I gave it my best shot, you done well. We might have won a team prize, we might have won nothing that particular year, but it was the excitement that brought out of you. The excitement was everything.
The Ballycotton 10 is widely regarded as being a classic race run at a classic distance. It even said so at the start line in 2017. Liam O'Brien, a former Irish Olympian, is among those tasked with looking after the entries, times and results. How do the methods used today vary from those used in earlier editions?
Technology has advanced, and the numbers in the race have increased dramatically. It got to be quite a hectic thing. Initially, it was all just done in paper and pen and manually. Then, with the advent of computers, it was still pretty well done manually. And as people finished and crossed the line, even when there was 1,000 to 2,000 athletes running in the race, they'd have to be lined up in various chutes and their numbers taken down manually again. And all of that got to be very unmanageable. It was very difficult. So with the advent now then of chip timing, that has eased that side of things. So people not only get the time that they got in the race from the time when the gun goes to the time they finish, now they also get the time that it took them from the time they crossed the start line, which in some cases could be up to a minute and a half from the time the gun goes because of the numbers. So they get how long it actually took them to do their 10-mile run. There's a nice bit of work done beforehand, just preparing the entries and getting the numbers out to the athletes. And there's this year there was close on 4,000 entries. There's over 4,000 entries, so it's 4,000 envelopes and numbers and programs like that had to be sent out, and all those people tabulated. But once on the day of the race with the chip timing, it takes a lot of the work out of at our end. Now there's lots of work at other ends, and dealing with the traffic and the parking and other logistic things. But no, the chip timing has certainly eased the burden on the side of things that I would have been involved in anyway.
Liam has an incredible record in the race. Having finished second in the first edition, he went on to win it 4 times during the 1980s, even though it might not have suited his style of running.
Yeah, well, it was a local race. I would have been good friends with the guy that originated it, John Welsh. John was a club mate, and John started organising races in the 1970s. So road racing wouldn't have been my forte, we'll say. I would have been more a track and field athlete, but there were so few road races that we all supported whatever John put on. And for a while in the early stages of my career, like 10 miles on the road would have been, I'd have been more kind of an 800, 1500 metre runner, so 10 miles was a bit long, but I evolved into it, and so like John was a great stalwart and a great athletic person, so we'd all support his races, and whatever was going, we took part in.
Liam is one of a select few to have won the race on numerous occasions. Others include Jerry Kiernan, a former Irish Olympian himself, and John Griffin, as well as Sergiu Ciobanu in recent years. Another multiple winner of the race is Noel Berkeley. He may hail from County Dublin, but the people of East Cork have made him their adopted son. 6 wins in the race means that he has an honoured place in the annals of Ballycotton.
I've had a couple of great battles here. One year, of course, my first year in 95 with Gary Staines, but I had a great battle here, I don't know, was it 97 or 8 with Jamie Lewis, and another battle, I had a great battle, another year, a battle with the man from the west of Ireland, Jerry Ryan. So I had a couple of serious battles, and I had a couple of solo victories as well, but no, great memories. As I said, I was second twice, the first and last time I ran it, and in between I won it 6 times. But it's a great event, fantastic atmosphere, very well organised race, and fortunately they seem to always get a nice day.
While the runners grab the headlines, the behind the scenes work in hosting an event of such magnitude goes largely unseen. Tommy Hartnett is a key member of the Ballycotton running promotions team. He heads the group involved in ensuring that everything runs smoothly. It's a role that comes with a lot of responsibility, but he is full of praise for the locals.
I must say this about Ballycotton people, they're fabulous. We actually shut Ballycotton off for the day from 10 o'clock. We do take into account that people are going to mass and they're coming back in, and we try to let people in for as long as they possibly can get in. But Jordan, you've been down there on plenty of occasions, and at 11:30 you just can't get in, even with the best of intentions. You can't get people in. So the Ballycotton people really have taken it on board, and they're they do kind of. It's the start of the spring for Ballycotton as well. It's the start of pubs opening up a bit more and all the stuff. There are many pubs there. Maybe the Bayview would open up for the day or whatever. But it does signal the start of spring, summer. The winter's nearly over or whatever. And I would wholeheartedly thank the Ballycotton people for being so patient with us down through the years, and that they have in an abundance. Different groups get behind it. You'd Feroga there sometimes, you'd get different. Derry Keogh was brilliant with the school kids. They tidy up the village when Derry was the head teacher in Ballycotton. Derry's since retired, but people do come up to us and they do help out. Sean Fleming, for example, does his one-way system in the village every year. The Murrays are involved, and there's different. I don't want to mention names, but a lot of people would get involved. If you're stuck, they'll help you out, But what's more important really is that they kind of tolerate us, which is good. I don't mean that in a negative way. That they do actually, we block off little laneways and we block off. We're a nuisance from, but they do tolerate that, which is very good.
It must get stressful when the new year comes along and March is looming.
It's stressful. And as they say, not all stress is bad stress, whatever. The parts you can control are quite the good stress side of it. Our race starts really with our AGM, our committee meeting, main committee meeting, AGM, if you can call it that, because we're not actually a formal committee, in September, October. And we would get entry forms and all that stuff sorted out. Mainly with John Welch and Liam O'Brien would look after a lot of the entries, the setting up of the entries. And then the entries will come out, go online in early December. And then we have a different system for letting club people, a few days long or whatever. So it's all done and dusted really before Christmas. All the entries are in. So that puts the entry side of it to bed then really bad, the elite runners who will get in 50 or 60 of them get up to the day or whatever. And then you start with the race. Outside the race is organising the traffic, as you quite rightly mentioned a while ago. And that's stressful in the unpredictability of it, because you're depending on farmers keeping their fields available until after March the 12th this year. It was a week, the first or second Sunday in March, which we can thankfully say Tom Clancy did this year, and John Welch as well. We were using their fields. But the other unpredictable side of it is the weather. That the weather was very wet this year. Reading up, as we all know, the winter was fairly wet in January and February, March, the early March, and so it meant that we had to, have a lot of mats on the way in to get people over the mud, whatever, and that takes a massive amount of work. And it's led by myself and Shane Medley, but it's people like Martin Godfrey, Noel Murray, and they're fabulous, and they do help out in a big way, and it wouldn't happen without them. And on the day then you're getting the people in and out the village. I mean that takes a fabulous amount of work. You have the people come from the east, say from the Waterford side and Youghal side here. They go to Garryvoe and they park in Garryvoe and they're bussed over. And then you in Clyne, where Tom Dewan is the local guard, he takes a charge there, and he pushes all the traffic up to Churchtown South. So it's well oiled, but if you can't access the fields, which are the car parks, then you've got a problem. And the local Gardaí and the Gardaí will tell us, and it's quite understandable that there's no parking on the road, because for health and safety reasons, an ambulance might have to pass, or a fire brigade. We have to keep all that in mind as well, that Ballycotton, even though it's shut off, that something may happen in the village or nearby, and we need to have the roads accessible for all emergency services. But yeah, it is. To me, it's the most problematic part of Ballycotton 10. I mean, the entries on the nice part, the dealing with all the other parts around insurance, toilets, whatever. They're all the nice parts, and they're easy to look after. The year starts in October and goes right through till August the following year, then you say. So you have a few months holidays in between, September and October kind of off. But the Ballycotton 10 is always the first or second Sunday in March, and then the 4 Thursdays in May, June, July and August is the Ballindreen 5 in May, the Shanagary 5 in June, the Churchtown South 5 in July, and finishing off with the Ballycotton 5 in the 4th Sunday in August, which is the oldest event. The Ballycotton 5 was the first event that was held ever by Ballycotton Room Promotions and John Walsh.
Each Ballycotton race has produced a story. One that will be remembered for various reasons, though, is the 2001 running, which was held in the summertime instead of its traditional March slot. This was due to the race being postponed back in the spring as a result of the foot and mouth outbreak. The race was rescheduled for June, and a certain Sonia O'Sullivan came out on top in the ladies' race on what was a scorching afternoon. The Olympic medalist and former world champion remembers the occasion fondly, and it's a victory that means a lot to the Cove native.
For me, Ballycotton, it was one of the most famous road races, probably one of the few that I've ever even heard of that had a name, to something that you kind of stood out, and you thought you should, one of those races that you'd have to run in your lifetime. And I never thought that I would only ever run it once, but it just kind of turned out that way, that the date was a time when I wasn't normally in Ireland. I was either in college in America for a good few years, and then I spent a bit of time in Australia training, so I was normally away at that time of the year. So I suppose it looked out for me that in 2001, because of the foot and mouth, that it was postponed and pushed forward until June. It was really hot. I remember it was quite funny because when you run back up the hill, the last kind of mile or so into town, there was a bend that you came around there, and the road was actually melting. It was like one of those things where you have that melting tar, and it was a bit surreal, really. But it was a lovely hot day, but it would be something that I would quite enjoy running in warm weather. So I suppose the timing and the weather worked out good for me. Yeah, I wasn't too concerned with the time, really. I was actually one of the reasons I was there was because I wasn't running track season that year. I was pregnant with my second daughter, and so I knew, but not very many people knew. Probably only my husband. He was probably the only other person who knew, and so I was kind of running around at kind of 90% effort, and just hoping that there wasn't going to be anybody in there to push me too hard. And I remember running against Valerie Vaughan ran that day, and she ran really well as well. We ran together for the most part of the race, but the most important thing for me was to win. Time was kind of secondary, really. And I suppose one of the things that Ballycotton is the mug that you get, I think, for finishing the race is a bit different than prizes that you get in other races, and it's one of those things that I take great pleasure in that mug, when I go home to Cove and it's still in the cupboard. My dad was down there that day, and when you have, and my uncle and my aunt came down, when you have friends and family come down to watch you, and you take part in a local event, when you're, I suppose people are so used to watching you on television, and they don't get to see you run in real life, and you don't get to feel the encouragement and the support that people had for me at the time. To get that, running around the streets in a small village in East Cork is absolutely fantastic. And even now when I'm home, I like to ride my bike, and one of my favourite destinations is to go from Cove down to Ballycotton, and it took me a few attempts to actually get there to work it out. But when I got there, and then they have the little plaque on the wall down there to signify the start and the finish line, it's the same one every year.
Every year, thousands of runners descend on Ballycotton to take part in the 10-mile road race. Preparations start well in advance, with every athlete having an aim or goal. Some are running it for the first time, others are back to beat their previous record. It's an exciting part of the season.
All I see in the run, involved, there could be 60 or 70 of us there, so looking forward to it.
We started the St. Nicholas Club for the second time back in 2011, and we had 10 members in 2011. We now have 92 members, and we have 36 of them when running here today.
Watergrass still AC, yeah.
120 members, right. How long are we up?
Since 2013, it was founded in 2013, so started off with about 20 or 30, and then it's 120 now, so.
My third year in a row now, so a bit apprehensive this year. I don't have a lot of training put in for mileage, as regards mileage, but still looking forward to it. There's a good tradition there, and there's a huge amount of people, nearly 2,500 people are going to be running it, so it's nice to be involved with.
This is my first one down here. I was never down here before. I'm very anxious to see it today.
Yeah, I did it there about, it's a long time ago now, maybe about 15 years ago. So I've been my first time going back now in a long time. So looking forward to it now.
With the running club, we're always running anyway, but I suppose kind of after Christmas, the New Year's resolution kicks in, and so this is our kind of first main race of the year that everyone goes out for. So yeah, this is one of the main ones.
First time was very daunting. Like that, I was young at the time, so it was a big challenge, and I was happy enough. We had a great day, and delighted to get my mug that time. I'd be hoping to maybe get close to 65. It'll be a challenge now.
Really, since Christmas was the kick-off for this today, and they were training well before that, say 5 days a week. Then they were doing it
We do 3 nights a week minimum. So on a Tuesday night, we'd normally do 6 miles. Thursday night, then we do interval training, so that can be anything like speed, distance, or whatever. And Saturday mornings, then it's normally about a 10-mile minimum.
Well, if I broke the 80 now, I'd be delighted. If I beat my sister, I'd be delighted.
The first couple of miles are flat and downhill, so you might get a bit carried away with the crowd at the start. You need to kind of keep your pace going. You need to think about the last couple of miles that are more or less uphill, back into the village, and it's tough. The last couple of miles are very tough.
Another remarkable feat was completed at Ballycotton in 2015 when Sergiu Ciobanu made it 5 wins in a row. The Moldovan-born runner, who has represented Ireland internationally, is to date the only runner to win the Ballycotton 10 in 5 consecutive years. He ranks the 5-timer in East Cork as one of his best achievements.
In the distance, Sergio Cabano will be coming into view of the finish line when he takes this next bend. We're coming up to the 200 metre mark. It's going to be a win for Clonliffe Harriers, for Sergio Cabano. The Cork City Marathon winner last June is going to add the Ballycotton 10 title, and I'm going to just watch out.
I heard about Ballycotton probably first time I landed on this island. Yeah, first time I came to Ireland was sometime springtime, and I guess probably I was looking at the results and Ballycotton came on, you know. So I checked the results in the past, and I've seen like the greatest Irish athletes. They all ran Ballycotton, you know. So like this race kind of inspired me, you know. So I said like, oh, I'll go and run this race a few times. Like first time when I won Ballycotton, for me it was like winning the Olympics, you know, which is funny, you know. But Ballycotton it's a great run, you know. I always say to win a race 5 times, especially 5 times in a row, like this means consistency, you know. Like it will be hard for someone to go and win it 5 times in a row unless, you know, there are not athletes running there, you know, or something like this. But this year after Ballycotton, I said, look, I may not be the king of Ballycotton, but I'll try to win this race again, and maybe in a faster time, you know.
In 2017, the Ballycotton 10 celebrated 40 years in existence. It was a monumental occasion. Willie O'Mahony of East Cork has run in 39 out of the 40 editions of the Ballycotton 10. It's a race that has played a big part of his life, and one which he understandably holds in high regard.
Sure, I suppose the Ballycotton 10, it's a lifetime. It's 40 years of Ballycotton 10, and I suppose it was a part of our running life, really, yeah. Unlucky with one, I had an injury and surgery, and I just missed one, but I have 39 done. There come a time when your health has to come first, and it would be impossible to get around the crutches, I'd say. I have done 2 since, obviously at a different pace, but I mean, I've covered the journey anyway, and be a part of it. I think it was more set up as an athlete's, a people's race rather than an elite race. Okay. But they were graced with many fine athletes down through the years, and international athletes as well. So I mean, it has been very, very popular for the elite runners. I know that they're very committed committee from the word go. But I would imagine that it's very hard work, and it's very time consuming. I know that from once the Ballycotton is over, you're thinking and planning for the following year. And there's an awful lot of work behind the scenes. And but they're a very capable bunch. They've set standards, and I think that's what made the race more attractive as well, because of the timekeeping and the expertise of the organisation committee.
Another man who's been in attendance for the majority of races in Ballycotton is Dan McCarthy. A former chairman of the East Cork Athletics Board, he is the race starter, and it's a role that brings him great joy.
I started it 37 years. The first year that it was ran, I was in Youghal at the county championships, cross country. And that was the first year. And my son was running in Youghal, and he went on to Ballycotton, and he was third, I think, in a mile, while the first 10 mile race was on. They had road races for the young lads. And the next year, I was down in Tipperary at a Munster Championship. We had a good team here at St. Catherine's, and they won the Munster and the county. So he competed in every race except the first race. But as regards meeting, it was the third race that I started. And Johnny Welch asked me to start it, and I was delighted to be allowed to start it. So I have started ever since, but there was 1 year I was in hospital. I don't know exactly, it was about 10 years ago. But every year since I've started.
And Dan, you started the 40th edition of the race, and what a special occasion that was.
It was marvellous, and it was a great honour to be asked to start them. I find that I knock great pride out of starting the Ballycotton 10. And, the crowd is 3,000 runners. The road is fairly narrow. And they have a good idea for that the athlete runners would be up in a section of their own, about 200 yards to the road. And I line up the remainder behind. And there is about 10 yards or so, about 3 minutes before the race, they come down. And that's the 3 minutes that you rush him and get him to move on. I always try to start them on the time and behind the line. Down me too, because Johnny Welch is very, very strict in the time and that they be all behind the line. But somehow every year, and it's getting easier every year, and to get the road clear. You have so many things. The lead car, you must keep them in hands. You are known between them. That's up 100 yards the road. And you are known on the road. But everything falls in line to the minute half one. And you give them the gun.
Victory in the 40th running of the Ballycotton 10 went to Mick Clohessy from Raheny Shamrocks. He emulated other Irish Olympians such as Liam O'Brien, Jerry Kiernan and Sonia O'Sullivan in winning the Ballycotton 10. Having represented Team Ireland at the Olympics in Rio just months previously, he put in an impressive performance in tricky conditions. Siobhan O'Doherty from Ballycotton was first home in the female category, taking her tally to 2 wins in the race.
Happy to get to win. Obviously my first time to win Ballycotton. I've finished second and third in the past, so I really wanted to come down and win. Tough conditions with the headwind for the first few miles. I was a bit off time wise what I thought I'd run, but you can't always have everything, so I was just happy to get to win. It's good doing the London Marathon in 5 weeks, so good preparation. Well, I knew that my father's actually is a runner and he's come down for years, so that's where I would have heard about it first. And then my coach Dick Cooper's ran it in the past, and I've heard all the previous years, the prestige of it and the great performances and the whole the numbers it gets. So it's probably it's up there as the top race in the country as well. With I suppose Raheny 5, my own club as well, two of probably the biggest races I'd say in the country. So club races, or local races. So it's great, just great buzz about the place as well.
I've won it about 3 years ago. The time is slightly quicker, but it was very windy there today from mile 3 to about mile 5, and I just couldn't keep with the pace.
Sunshine out as well, of course.
Yeah, it's when it's not windy, it's a beautiful day out there. But when it's windy, it's very, very windy out there at the moment. I suppose I was hoping to kind of go and dip under the 57, but I suppose with that wind, it just wasn't going to happen today. It's nice to win it on a big year and an anniversary year and everything. So delighted. Yeah.
Athletes from Cork, across Ireland, Britain and Kenya are among those who feature on the illustrious Roll of Honour of the Ballycotton 10. Sports commentator Will Downing covered the race for over 10 years on CRY 104 FM. What are his recollections of the East Cork showpiece?
I worked on 11 Ballycottons and thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of the first regular commentary gigs that I did. I always thought it was going to go wrong, but miraculously, somehow, some way, it never did. There were 2 Kenyan runners based in London. Something that we've seen in major international events, major marathons since then. They basically burned off the rest of the field after about a mile. And they were stride for stride all the way through. So the first year we did the commentary was pretty much as a race, the worst race, because you had these 2 guys who were teammates, and it was just left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And they only started racing in the final 200 meters or so. 96 was notable enough in that the women's record, which had been long standing, got broken by Karen McLeod from Scotland. And Noel Berkeley, who ended up winning it more times than anyone else, was a major victor in 96 as well. The race would start, that wonderful mass of humanity going way back to the village, hundreds and, as it would turn out, thousands. They'd go off. So we'd commentate for about 2 minutes, and then they'd go off into the countryside, and then we'd have a few more interviews. We'd have a couple of live updates which would come from the course, sometimes which would be correct and sometimes not, because we didn't have any reporters out in the course. And then once we had a fair idea what was happening, we'd commentate on the closing stages. They'd come to me and I would fill for, hopefully 30 seconds, maybe 5 minutes before the winner would come around. And if I remember the very, very first one we did, there was a huge amount of filling because Noel Berkeley didn't turn out to be as fast that year as we thought he would be. But he came through. It was a good race, actually, between himself and John Griffin. He only ended up winning it by a few seconds. But Berkeley ended up being, if you like, the dominant face for the 11 years that I was working on the race up to 2006. Sonia O'Sullivan competed for the one and only time as a major international athlete in 2001. That basically suited her schedule because, as I say, for many years it always corresponded with the world of the European indoor athletics, and she would normally be competing at that. But in 2001 we had foot and mouth. A whole load of sporting events basically got pushed aside. It hit Britain and Ireland quite badly. And the other major name who I can remember competing in it was in the very, very early days, I think it was 1997, and he didn't win either, was the 5 times world cross-country champion John Ngugi of Kenya. I remember this was back in a time as well when the World Cross-Country Championship was on every year. It was on at the end of March, and it was a lot more open than it was now. In terms of the main Irish athletes, this is an event which has got a particular special aura about it. You compete in Ballycotton, and it's not just a major Irish race, but you're talking about something which has been on for 40 years. It's been going longer than the Dublin Marathon. It's been going longer than the London Marathon. It's been around almost 10 years longer than the World Athletics Championships. You're talking about something from an entirely different era, and the name, as well as the race, the name and the reputation has just grown and grown down through the years. And for the likes of Mick Clossey, who does a good bit of track running, but mainly you're talking about the road, you're talking about marathons. It's very important for someone like him and for Sergio. Obviously, we've seen them both compete for Ireland in the European Athletics Championships, and Sergio came very close to competing in the Olympic Games marathon. Noel Berkeley was a regular in Irish international teams, particularly in the likes of the cross-country championships. And it's just the reputation, it's the name, it's the fact it's been around for so long, the fact that it's still pretty much the same people organising it, the same course, the same village. Very little has changed over 40 years, apart from the huge numbers that are now competing in it. And you get your mug at the end of it, and that's it. It doesn't matter who you are. You complete the race, you get your medal, you get your mug. I think that more than anything else, it sort of encapsulates the individuality of the event. Just the way that Ballycotton is done, the way it's organised, the special word that, Johnny Walsh and the rest will have for you. I think even when we were there as broadcasters, we just felt that we were treated so much more differently there, and in a much more special way there than at any other event that I could mention.
The best edition, no doubt, divides opinion. What have been some of the highlights from the organisers' perspective? Tommy Hartnett explains.
So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together now for our race leaders. We've Sean Connolly from Tala wearing the yellow and red singlet.
Some of the highlights. I mean, some of the highlights are in us achieving, I suppose, getting that many runners to the start line, and getting that many runners over the finish line, and getting them all home safely. That's, to me, is an achievement every year. And you're talking this year, a few runners short of 3,000 people. We did have more than that one year. The year we left the entries open. That's a highlight every year. And there is a buzz about the race. I mean, there's the buzz that actually a lot of people get more than us. People talk about Ballycotton. They're talking about it already. Believe it or not, I've had emails already about when is next year's race on, and I couldn't get in this year, can you get me in next year, and sort of people are building up for it, and sometimes I would say, like, go in run Mallow or go away, because it's difficult getting to Ballycotton, and I'm not too sure if I was come from Galway or Dublin would I run Ballycotton, because you're there for the day, but there is a buzz around the place. The other highlights really would be, I suppose, I mean, the record of 47 minutes is an incredible record on the road surface in Ballycotton. I mean, the country roads, so the road surface wouldn't be great. And I happened to be at the finish line that year when Gary Staines crossed the finish line, and we could see the clock counting down, the old click clock, whatever, counting down, and you could see 46, 50 something anyway, but it was 47 flat anyway. And at the time, Gary was silver. European silver medal winner, so that was an achievement. And then watching people like Liam O'Brien, I suppose, who I'd have known from the time I started running, winning his races. He won 3 or 4 races, and Noel Berkeley, who was also adopted, even though he's still a dub, but he's an adopted local man, and Noel is a great supporter of athletics in Cork. And even more to the point in is watching the local lads, the local runners who I can really relate to, like the Sean McGraths, the Michael Hartys, the James McCarthys, and their endeavours to win the race, and none of them have won the race, but my God, they run that race, and every one of those guys I've mentioned there have left nothing out in the course, and it's not an easy race to win.
No.
And then watching another local lads like Mark Hanrahan won it last year, or the year before last, and you had Alan O'Shea won it a few years back, and it's great to watch all them local lads. Mix it with some of the best runners in the country, and that to me would be, so that's some of the highlights, but it's also the community effort as well, would be every year where people rowing and things seem to happen, like you're saying, will this work, whatever, but we always get it done.
From having a little over 30 runners back in 1978 to thousands of entries in 2017, the Ballycotton 10 has surpassed all expectations. 40 years on, how does John Welsh, fondly known in running circles as Mr. Ballycotton, feel about the event now?
Nowadays you have races, half marathons, you have marathons and everything nearly every month of the year. But then there was no other main event on, so people would, Ballycotton kind of got a life of its own really, and the hype, I suppose, increased, and people just wanted to do it. The main thing I would be proud of is the fact that it has kept going for so long. Because when I was growing up in Ballycotton, and as any typical Irish village, you would always hear people say, that won't last, like nothing lasts here in our village. And I think it's not easy, obviously. You have to, it's a balancing act at times, and it calls for a lot of diplomacy maybe at times to keep everyone happy, and obviously you can't satisfy everyone, but the fact we've survived for 40 years meant that we must have been doing something right. So yeah, I suppose it's been a major part of my life really. It's defined me to an extent of my running and stuff, and I often the winter there when I go out running in the dark winter nights, and I suppose I think back to when I started in the 70s, and maybe you would have dreams of what you do in your own running, and maybe you realise that you won't win an Olympic marathon or something, and then you maybe have dreams of putting on an event, and it was a dream, and I can say, thank God that with the help of a lot of people that it came through.
The Ballycotton 10, the best road race in the country, was funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with a television licence fee. It was presented and produced by Jordan McCarthy and edited by Tom Maher. The sound engineer was Thomas O'Keefe. A Community Radio Youall production. with thanks to Dolphin Video, Ballycotton Running Promotions and the East Cork Athletics Board.
This programme was funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee. This programme was funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.
So is this your first